the voice of the Latino community in California, YouTube, the Bay Area, and beyond. What's going on, everybody? One love from the East Bay, from East Oakland, Califas, on here with a live feed for y'all. Hopefully, some people will join, say what's up to me. My computer broke down, so I don't have a screenshot right now, so I'm just showing my wall, my Mexican and Salvadorian flag, and my Chicano power posters you can see over there. So what's up with y'all? Hopefully you guys are joining me. Hopefully we could talk a little bit about politics, about the takeover of the Capitol. Trump trying to rally his brown shirts, trying to rally his troops, and just about other things in the community and other things going on in the world. But yeah, it was a pretty wild week with that takeover of the Capitol. That was kind of crazy. You know what I mean? All those pro-Trumpers, and anybody that knows me knows I'm not very political these days. I don't really support. I don't really like Biden, nor do I like Trump. I think the Republican Party and the Democrat Party are both full of it. You know what I mean? They're not in the interest of Raza. That's for damn sure. They just want to use us as political scapegoats, which is the reason why I didn't vote for any of those suckers. You know what I mean? Because I do not support those political parties. I always tell people we live in a two-party dictatorship. You know what I mean? And that's the Democrat and the Republican Party. And yeah, it's pretty ballsy though for Trump, a president, to tell people to storm the Capitol. And I wanted to share my thoughts on that whole situation and just talk a little bit about politics for a little bit. My thing is, I'm not really like, I can't, I'd be a hypocrite if I say I was against their action. Because I look at it like this, you know what I mean? If you're going to protest, something you're not in favor of, that's how you do it. You take it to the man, you take it to the system. You know what I mean? If you burn your own barrio or your own hood, what the hell is that gonna do? That's not gonna bring anything. You know what I mean? Burning up your own community and looting for Jordans it's not really gonna stop police brutality or anything like that. But taking it to the man, scaring the man, that's how you do it. That's how you bring change. And I may not agree with their political ideology, the people that took over the Capitol, because I'm not a right winger and I don't believe in fascism and in a police state or in any other stuff. You know what I mean? That they believe in. You know what I mean? Christianity or Christian rule or any of that stuff. I'm not a Christian. You know what I mean? I'm not a religious person either. So I don't care about colonial religions. But their action, I can't full heartedly complain about it because I've said the same thing about the left. Me being basically from the left, I've always said that people should take it to the man when they have a grievances. You know what I mean? How is destroying your own neighborhood is not going to bring any real change? So I can't be mad at the people that took over the Capitol. The only thing I don't agree with is what they believe in. I don't believe that Trump is fucking Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? I don't believe that Trump is the second coming of Jesus. I don't worship Donald Trump like these people do. These people worship him so much they'd probably suck him up if he'd give him a chance. That's how much they worship this guy. It's like a Trump cult. So I don't worship Trump. I don't worship Biden. I don't care about any of these people. These people are irrelevant and redundant to me personally, but, you know, the action they took, I understand, but I don't believe in what they believe in. You know what I mean? I'm not an extreme right winger. I'm not an extreme leftist either, but if I had to pick a side, yes, I'm going to be a little bit more liberal and a little bit more to the left. Even though I'm really to the center, really, at this point in time, but, you know, I see less things in a conservative light than I do the other light. You know what I mean? Another thing that I'm starting to notice is that the people who were part of that protest are being arrested. I've seen a couple of videos where they dragged a couple of people from the airport. I've seen another video where a guy was mad because they put him on a no-fly list. I guess I'm not sure if these videos are have anything to do with the Capitol storming. If these are the people that stormed the Capitol, but they're being put on. Like in one video, there's a guy being arrested, and he's like, "They put me on a no-fly list. They're treating me as a terrorist." And there's another guy. I've seen another video online where they're arresting him, and he's like, "You guys are treating me like a black man," or something like that. And then I seen another video where they arrested some female. You know what I mean? And the way I look at this is they reap what they sow. Because the right wing is the one that supports the police state in this country. Let's just face it. Now, I'm not anti-police. I'm not a defund the police type of person per se. Even though I think there should be police reform for sure. Because, I mean, it is not a lie that the police brutalize and have brutalized like the Raza and black community. That's not a made up thing. That's a real thing. But a lot of these like Trumpers, conservatives, and pro right wing type people, they support a police state. They support immigration laws. They support stop and frisk. They support, the Patriot Act. They support, incarcerating people for any little minute thing. They support even incarcerating people for littering, probably. You know what I mean? So, you know, they voted these things in. The thing that I always say that you have to be careful, whether you're on the right or left or any political view, is that you have to be careful what you support, because the thing is, this is the thing that people don't realize, and this is the reality check they get. When you support anti-immigration raids and anti-Raza police states against Raza, once they come after the Raza, who do you think they're gonna come after next? Once you support anti-black police, anti-police patrolling the black community like a occupying force. Again, when you support like black people being thrown in jail, Raza being harassed by immigration or by the police, when you support locking people up, when you support three strikes laws, anti-terrorism, the Patriot Act, when they're done harassing those people, who do you think they're gonna come after next? They're gonna come after you. And right now, those people that stormed the Capitol are being arrested by the police, and they're reaping what they sow because they're pro-police and they're pro-police state. So you reap what you sow. You get a taste of your own medicine now. Now you know what it feels like to be in our skin. You know what I mean? And that's just the reality. That's why I never supported police state tactics. I didn't support the Patriot Act or spying on people or stop and frisk or the gang unit or harassing people for just any little thing. I never was for a police state, ever. I understand that the police is necessary for certain things, but I don't support over-policing of communities and harassing people. I think if you commit a crime and you do something stupid, then you're going to go to jail. That's just how it is. You know what I mean? But I don't support over-policing of people, because that is a violation of freedom. If you want to talk about freedom, the problem with the right-wingers is they talk so much about freedom, but they're against freedom. They're against abortions. They're against people having rights. They're against immigration, which is the country made up of immigrants. They're against a lot of things. You know what I mean? They're against black people, against Muslims. But they reap what they sow. So leave a comment. Tell me what you think. If you think or agree with me. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. I don't need you to agree or agree. I'm just venting what I wanted to vent. You know what I mean? Leave a comment if you're joining me. This is Oakland Latinos United, live with Jay, part 7. The second live feed of 2021. You know what I mean? It's beginning to be an interesting year. And we'll see where it goes from there. So who's on there? Is anybody on here joining me? I see 3 people on here. Say hello. Say que ondas, como estás? You know what I mean? What'd you get into today? Did you eat anything good? Did you see any good news reports? Did you watch the football games? You know what I mean? What's uppers? ¿Qué ondas? ¿Qué pasó? If you're on here joining me, leave me a note, say what's up. But yeah, I'm just talking about a lot of these right wingers. They support a police state, but they don't want a police state coming after them. But we have to learn from the Nazis and Hitler. Like the brown shirts that did Hitler's dirty work. And once they did his dirty work, what did he do? He killed and threw all of them in jail. You know what I mean? So that's just how politics works. I think even Stalin did similar things. He had people do his dirty work, and then once they were done, he threw them in the gulags. I don't know why my live feeds keep getting cut off. The YouTube just always does this. I'm not sure why. But I was making a pretty good point that when you support a police state, if you support a police state against black and brown people, Muslim people, or people that you deem you don't like or you're against, you don't think they're gonna come after you? You think that it's just gonna be hunky dory when they still need to fill those prisons or fill those camps? You think they're not gonna put you in them? So a lot of these pro-Trumpers that are getting arrested are reaping what they sow. Everything you support, you're starting to feel the wrath of it, and that's just the reality of the situation. You know what I mean? And it is what it is. I don't feel sorry for you, you know. But I can't condemn the action of taking over the Capitol. It's just I don't agree with what they agree with. You know, there's a lot of people that say had it been Black Lives Matter or Raza taking over the Capitol like that, or leftists, Antifa types, would the police have acted the way they acted? Would they have called the National Guard and shot and killed a bunch of people? It could have been a possibility. You know what I mean? But there was one person shot that I know of. Three other people died. I don't know what they died of, and I know they're saying a Capitol Police died too. And that goes to talk about Trump. I mean, Trump is a tricky dude, man. He's a tricky dude. Just his presence alone has divided this country in a crazy way that I hadn't seen. I mean, there's always been liberals and conservatives fighting each other over this and that, but this has been kind of weird. It's a weird time. But yeah, it's reminded me a little bit of the 1960s, of 1968, like that era. I wasn't alive then, but the political climate of that time was very divided. You know what I mean? You had the old guard, the people that came from the old days when racism and segregation was the law of the land. And you had the new guard, which were the hippies and the leftists that wanted to change the world. And you had the old guard trying to protect that from. They're changing our right to be racist. That was like the attitude of the 1960s when they were changing things. See, now in the 20th, in the 21st century, if my live feed keeps cutting off, it's because YouTube keeps hating on me. I'm not sure why. They just keep hating on my live feed, but I'm going to keep on saying what I want to say. So, in the 60s, like I was saying earlier, 1968, when Lyndon B. Johnson was president and they had signed the Civil Rights Act, the right wingers of that time were crying because racism was going to change. They didn't have the right to be racist anymore. I think now this whole Make America Great thing is basically right wingers wanting to return to that. They want to return to a time of ignorance and intolerance, and Donald Trump is their God and Savior and hero of that. He's like their Messiah. And that's what it is. They're acting like those people in the 60s who were saying, "Oh my God, these people are changing America. I do not want to see." Like I was saying, the people back then were saying, "Oh my God, these people are destroying America." You know what I mean? I don't want to sit next to a black person or a Mexican person or blah, blah, blah. So these people now are saying, they're thinking the same way, but now they're using feminism, they're using gay rights, they're using abortion, they're using the Christianity as their savior, basically. Well, they're using. Let me rephrase that. They're using immigration rights, gay rights, abortions, feminism as like their tool to say, oh, you see, these people are changing and destroying America, and I can't stand what's going on, and blah blah blah. I want the right to be intolerant, and Donald Trump is gonna save my day. He's gonna put those people in their place, and that's their mentality. There's no different than the people in the '60s, except now they're not using black and they're not using black. Basically, it's what they used in the '60s. Now they're using gays, they're using immigrants, they're using others as their enemy. You know, someone said Cesar Chavez was anti-immigrant. Someone said that Cesar Chavez was anti-immigrant. So YouTube keeps cutting off my videos, but they can keep trying to cut them off. But I'm just gonna be right back. You're not gonna stop me. So I have no idea why they keep trying to mess up my live feed. But yes, that is not a surprise. That is not a secret that um, Cesar Chavez was anti-immigrant. He was. He didn't like Mexicanos. He basically his what I read was that he was against basically strike breakers. And those of you who know about labor movement, strike breakers were basically workers who were non-union who were brought in to work while the regular workers who were unionized were striking. So he tried to say that the immigrants or the Mexican immigrants were being used as strike breakers, and that was his whole point of being anti-immigrant. You know what I mean? Was because yeah, exactly. They were strike breaking and they were taking the jobs that Chicanos or Americans, I guess, quote unquote, could be doing. But I'm not justifying what he did, but that is the reason why he claimed he didn't like him. And I mean, he said some pretty bad things. There is a video. Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say that there is a video where he's on a Bay Area news station. I believe it's Channel 7, which is that local ABC channel here in San Francisco, Oakland. And he called Mexican immigrants wetbacks. That is true. He did say that. You know what I mean? And I didn't know that part of Cesar Chavez's history. I actually found out about it about 10, 12 years ago. I read about it. I read a book about Cesar Chavez, and I was shocked. You know what I mean? I was like, wow, I didn't know that part of his legacy, which was pretty shocking. It's always been interesting to me why Cesar Chavez was always held as this great Chicano hero, but other people like Reyes Tijerina, Corky Gonzalez, and a whole bunch of others were not. You know what I mean? Corky Gonzalez was way more militant than Cesar Chavez ever was. You know what I mean? He was from Denver, Colorado, but he had hella ties to the Bay Area. That's what a lot of people don't know. He had a lot of ties to the city of Oakland and San Francisco. You know? But yet we never talk about Corky Gonzalez. He's never talked about in anything. You know? Same thing with Reyes Tijerina. Reyes Tijerina, whether you agree with him or not, he was a very militant dude who had the National Guard come after him. You know, and he had ties to Oakland too. All leaders of that time did. Even Cesar Chavez. Cesar Chavez got started in Oakland. That's what people don't know. And no, I'm not saying that just because I'm from Oakland, but this is a fact. Cesar Chavez actually got started in Oakland. His activism training was in Oakland back in the late 50s, early 60s, because he lived in Eastside San Jose. And you know, San Jose is only 45-minute drive from Oakland. So he would come to Oakland to work in the Latino community out here. You know, but I'm just saying, I always tripped off how like Corky Gonzalez, Reyes Tijerina, you know, and a lot of other ones. You know what I mean? A lot of other people that don't get talked about. You know, that teacher Sal Castro. You know, he don't get talked about much. You know, very shocking. But according to my uncles who worked in the fields many years, that's what they call immigrants or mojados. Yeah, I remember back in the days they used to call them that. Even here in Oakland, when I was a youngster, other raza, they used to call the paisitas, they used to call them wetbacks or mojados. I remember that back in like the 80s and early 90s. You know, the Chicanos used to say that stuff. Even my own brothers and sisters, my older brothers and sisters used to use those words. You know, and then in Oakland, when I was growing up, they called them chuntaros or chunks. They used to call them chunties. They used to call them that all the time. You know what I mean? Oh, that fool's a chunky. That fool's a chunk. They used to always say that when I was growing here. That was an Oakland word. I don't know if they say that in other words, in other cities, but here in Oakland, they used to say that all the time. Chunties, chuntaros, paisas. They weren't using the mojado word so much anymore, but yeah, back in the days, they used to say that. But yeah, I mean, Cesar Chavez, yeah, it's a trip, you know. Hell, he didn't even start the great boycott in Delano. You know, that guy Italy Young, the Filipino dude, started that protest. And what was that other guy? His last name was Veracruz. You know, they were the ones that started the great boycott. But you know, I don't. It's just a trip to me how they don't talk about Corky Gonzalez. You know, he wrote the famous poem "I Am Joaquin." You know, he started crusades for justice in in Denver, Colorado, fighting for Chicano rights. You know, he helped organize La Raza Unida Party, and he helped organize the Chicano Moratorium. You know what I mean? He came to Oakland a lot of times. Actually, my friend Juan Espinosa, who was a member of the Chicano Revolutionary Party in Oakland back in the '60s, was good friends with with Corky Gonzalez, and he's the one that would do security for Corky Gonzalez when he would come to Oakland. So he had a lot of ties to the Oakland, believe it or not. And you know, and there's a lot of others. You know, there's a lot of others. You know, that don't get talked about at all. You know, Chicano icons who put it down for La Raza back in the days, who are almost all forgotten or wiped out of history. You know, and you know the thing is, I actually did an interview recently about Oakland Latinos United, about my project with a group called East Bay Yesterday. They document Bay Area history, and I talked to them about the history of Raza in Oakland. And I talked to them how there was a lot. The Chicano movement was pretty big in Oakland, but it never gets talked about. You know, it gets overshadowed by the Black Panthers. And I'm not going to say that the Black Panthers weren't a big part of Oakland, because they were. They were born and raised in Oakland. You know, they were started in Oakland by Huey Newton and Bobby Seale. But I told them that it's important to realize that the Chicano movement happened in Oakland, and there were organizations like the Chicano Revolutionary Party, the Brown Berets. You know, La Raza Unida Party was in Oakland at one time. Latinos United for Justice were here. That's where the name Oakland Latinos United came from. It was kind of an homage to them. You know, there were various other groups like Centro Legal de la Raza, La Clínica de la Raza, which is from Oakland as well. So a lot of things happened in Oakland during the Chicano movement era. You know what I mean? Um, there was a lot of stuff that happened during that era, and you know, don't get talked about. And what I was telling the dude from East Bay yesterday was that you know, that people assume that us as Raza. So what I was telling the dude from East Bay yesterday was that Raza in Oakland fought a lot for their community here, and they fought even alongside the Black Panthers, but yet that never gets talked about. And people always assume that us as Chicanos or Mexicanos, that we live off the rights that fought for us. And there is truth to that, but then that's not 100% truth. Yes, the black community spearheaded the civil rights movement, and they're the ones that broke a lot of barriers, because they were the loudest group. Obviously, they were the largest group at the time. But that doesn't mean that Chicanos or Raza, we never fought for our rights or we never put something into the civil rights movement. You know what I mean? The Chicano movement itself was a civil rights movement. So anyone who says that Mexicans never fought for anything are idiots that don't know their history. They're just plain stupid, who don't know anything. You know what I mean? That's why it's always important to educate people about Chicano history, whether it's in Oakland, whether it's in LA, whether it's in San Francisco, whether it's in San Diego, whether it's in Sacramento, wherever it may be. We always got to let people know that our people fought, and our people have been here just as long, and our people even fought in Mexico and El Salvador and in Colombia and in Venezuela or wherever, Cuba, wherever, you know what I mean? Wherever Raza may be. We've always been fighting. So for people to say that we live off other people's fights is stupid. It's just that whole mentality, that border mentality, that we're these dumb Mexicans that don't have no education, and we just come here to take people's jobs and we don't do nothing. Like we're their little stupid mojaditos. You feel me? I've heard of that. Black people pave the road. Yeah, I hear that all the time. Someone says I heard that before. Black people pave the road for Mexicans or Chicanos. Exactly. I hear that too all the time, and that's so far from the truth, man. I will agree that blacks spearheaded the civil rights, and they were the big part of the civil rights. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and so many a host of others. I'm not, and the Civil Rights Act was signed because the black community is the one that spearheaded that. But that's not to say that Chicanos or Raza didn't fight for their rights. That was the important thing when I talked to East Bay yesterday about the history of Chicanos in Oakland, that our history has been ignored and just completely just ignored and erased from Oakland history books. And that this is the reason why people think that way, why people think that we live off what black people did or what other people did, because our history is not told. And they don't want to tell our history. That's why it's up to us to tell our history. That's why I started Oakland Latinos United, was to tell people the story of Oakland, of Chicanos in my hometown, of our struggle, and of what we did since way back in the 40s and 50s to now, and even before that, you know what I mean? That's the reason why Oakland Latinos United exists. That's the only reason this whole platform exists, is because of that. You know? That was the original intent of Oakland Latinos United. And if you go to my IG or my Facebook page, I have all kinds of documentation of Chicano history in Oakland. You know what I mean? So I'm probably the biggest collector of Chicano history in Oakland. Because to me, it's that important. You know, yeah, it may not be the history of all the Califas, but it's the history of one major city in Califas. You know what I mean? That Raza in Oakland is completely ignored, and our history is not even written about or told here in this town. Yet we've been here just as long as everybody else. So it is what it is. You know what I mean? But I mean that's not just Oakland. That's the tale of a lot of cities in California and throughout the Southwest. You know, like Raza has been there since day one, but yet our story is never told. And people assume that we've never done anything, that we're just this quiet, meek group that doesn't do anything, and that we don't fight for our rights, and we've never marched alongside with blacks or marched alongside with anybody else. But I could show you stuff in Oakland where we did march alongside blacks, and we did march alongside the Black Panthers, and we did march alongside a lot of other things. You know? And it is what it is. We need to inform the truth and let the young kids know how hard we and struggled. Of course. And, you know, I suggest you guys go look up East Bay Tomorrow. It's a podcast where they document Oakland history or East Bay history. And I'm gonna be on there. I'm gonna be on there hopefully next week. The I already got interviewed. We did an interview. We talked about Chicano history. We talked about a lot of things, and I would think that that'd be a beautiful way for this history to be told. So be on the lookout. Go on Oakland. I find it very that West Oakland was originally the Mexican neighborhood of Oakland. Of course, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that West Oakland was the first Mexican neighborhood of Oakland. You know what I mean? See, the thing is, you got to understand West Oakland in itself, and you got to understand Oakland history. This is the kicker right here. East Oakland used to be the white neighborhood of Oakland. East Oakland used to be the area where people with money in Oakland lived back in the day. So it was like the middle class of Oakland. You know what I mean? And we're going back to the 1920s, early 20th century. and um and yeah, Fruitvale was actually a German community originally. And then a lot of Portuguese started moving into Fruitvale. So what it was in the old days, West Oakland was the area where all the immigrants would come to Oakland. So a lot of Italians, Portuguese, African Americans, and Mexicans started coming to West Oakland. For one, if you were black or Mexican or non white Protestant, you couldn't live in East Oakland. And this is a fact. You could actually look some of that up on that East Bay Tomorrow I was telling you about. They have some of that stuff documented. But in East West Oakland was also the terminus of the railroad, of the Southern Pacific Railroad. So that was the end of the line for the Southern Pacific Railroad before going to San Francisco. And you got to remember, back then there was no Bay Bridge or Golden Gate Bridge. So to get to San Francisco, you had to cross a ferry. So a lot of people would just stay in Oakland. So West Oakland was the end of the Southern Pacific Railroad. So a lot of like immigrants came there. It was a working class area. It was the only area of Oakland where black and brown and Asian people could live. So it became like the area where Mexicanos were living. Puerto Ricans were also living in West Oakland because a lot of Puerto Ricans were taken to Hawaii to work in the sugar cane and pineapple plantations. So when they would come back to to the mainland, they would come to San Francisco, Oakland, or Hayward. That was the major destination for Puerto Ricans. A lot of Mexicans were living around West Oakland, around 7th Street, and then the Mexicans started kind of settling around 7th and Castro, 7th and Jefferson, 7th and Market, and their neighborhood was all the way down almost to Jack London Square. You know what I mean? And then the black people, the first blacks that started coming to Oakland, a lot of them were Pullman porters, as they call them. They worked for the railroads. A lot of the Mexicans worked for the railroads as track layers, or they worked in the canneries and shipyards and factories, as the blacks did as well. And during World War II is when the major black migration happened to West Oakland to bring workers, but they also brought a lot of people from Nuevo Mexico, Texas, Arizona, Colorado. They brought a lot of Chicanos from there, and they brought a lot of Braceros from Mexico. Originally, they were brought to work the fields, but a lot of them were brought to Oakland to work in the shipyards and the railroad. My grandfather was one of them. He came all the way from Michoacan. And, yeah, they were around West Oakland. There used to be a movie theater called the Star Theater on 7th. I'm back. But the Star Theater used to be there. There used to be a bunch of restaurants like Mexicali Rose, Mi Rancho, Enchilada Shop, La Chapala, and a bunch of other restaurants and stores around that neighborhood. Oh, La Borinqueña as well. So the first Mexican community was located in that area. And 7th Street, the lower part of 7th Street, going towards where the West Oakland BART is now, is where all the black businesses were. The Slim Jenkins Club, Esther's Orbit Room, a bunch of black-owned businesses around there. So that became the so-called Harlem of the West. And people don't know this, you know what I mean? And what happened was that in the 50s and 60s, the government started building freeways in Oakland, the 880. Back then it was Highway 17, and they built it right across West Oakland, and they destroyed whole neighborhoods to build that damn freeway. You know what I mean? They destroyed whole neighborhoods. They destroyed all of 7th Street, all of the original Mexican neighborhood. Then they built the police station. They built the BART. The BART came went through west parts of West Oakland. So that whole original barrio got completely destroyed. So what was happening in East Oakland, which you got to remember, East Oakland used to be the white area of Oakland. The whites started moving out. You know what I mean? They started moving out to Hayward, to Concord, to the outskirts of the Bay Area. And someone said, I hear there was a restaurant called El Monterrey near Mexicali Rose. I never heard of it, but it could be a possibility, bro. There were so many businesses, Mexican businesses in that area back then, bro. So what happened was that all the Chicanos started moving towards the Fruitvale area. They also started moving to the San Antonio district, especially over there by Clinton Square Park. You know what I mean? The blacks started moving like towards Seminary, towards the deep East Oakland. Some of them were moving around Fruitvale too. You know, the Asians were starting to move to the Doves. You know what I mean? In Funktown, and that's how East Oakland became the area where people of color, Raider Nation says East Oakland. That's right. I'm from the town, East Side, Oaktown, East 7th Street. But yeah, Latinos started moving around Jingletown, around East 7th Street, around Fruitvale, around all that area, bro. Around the Doves, around the 40s, the 50s, the 60s too. So that's how Raza started moving to the area because they started leaving West Oakland and they started moving to the east, and that's and the blacks as well. And that's how people of color dominated East Oakland. But you got to remember, the migration of black people was a lot more bigger in the in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. More black people were migrating from Louisiana, Arkansas, Texas to Oakland. That's why the black population was so big. But the Mexican population grew too because a lot of Chicanos came, a lot of Mexicanos came, and then in the 80s and 90s, the whole Central American wave came because of the wars that were going on in Central America. That's why today you find hella people from El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Guatemala. I'm actually half Salvadoran and Mexican. That's why you see a Mexican and Salvadoran flag. But yeah, man, that's the history of the town. And in the 1960s, when everyone came to the Fruitvale area, that's when Pinky de Vaca got killed. You know what I mean? Charles de Vaca, Charles Dominic de Vaca, he got killed in 1968 by the Oakland police, and that sparked off the Chicano movement in Oakland. That's when Latinos United for Justice organized against the murder of Charles de Vaca, or they called him Pinky de Vaca in the hood. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's when you started having the Brown Berets came out to Oakland. The Chicano Revolutionary Party formed. You know what I mean? And they were actually doing militant action, just like the Black Panthers were doing. They were patrolling like Fruitvale and patrolling the neighborhoods, making sure people didn't get arrested. They started a free breakfast program that the Black Panthers helped them set up at Mary Helpful Christian Church in Jingletown. They also had another one at a church that used to be on whatchamacallit, on East 16th and Fruitvale Ave. There was a church that used to be there. Now it's La Clínica de la Raza, but back then there was a church there. You know what I mean? And there was a lot of other organizations, Chicano organizations. There was Teatro Triste. There was La Raza Unida Party had a chapter in Oakland. You had, Centro Legal. You had the Unity Council, the Spanish-speaking Citizens Foundation, De Colores. Hell of them. You started having the Chicano schools like El Centro Infantil de la Raza, La Escuelita. Those of you who remember those schools, Emiliano Zapata Street Academy. So all these things were created by our raza, bro, but yet none of it is recognized in Oakland history, bro. And you tell me how that's fair. You know what I mean? But yet we're these wetbacks that never made history, right? We're here to take your jobs. We're here to scrub your toilets. That's who we are, according to the whites and even some of the blacks, unfortunately. you know. But it is what it is, man. That's why it's up to us to tell our story. You know what I mean? Somebody said that that's why it's important for us to tell the story of our people. You know what I mean? Mexicans in East Oakland. I mean, Mexicans. It's not just Mexicans now. There's hella Salvadorians and especially Guatemala. There's hella people from Guatemala in East Oakland. But to the homie, what's his name? Hold on, let me check. Art Best. How did you find out about the old Mexican neighborhood in West Oakland? Through me, or did you read about it, or if you're on here still, how did you find out about that old Mexican neighborhood in West Oakland? Because a lot of people don't even know about that Mexican neighborhood because it never gets spoken about. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't know that that whole neighborhood was completely obliterated, destroyed. You know what I mean? The raza there were completely just wiped out from that neighborhood, bro. They just wiped out that whole neighborhood, you know? But I'm just curious how you heard about that old neighborhood, you know? Because a lot of people don't even know that, you know? And back then, that's where the Pachucos used to be, back in the 40s and 50s. You know, that was the Pachuco era. You know, they had Pachucos in West Oakland, too, you know? There was some Mexicans already in Raza living in East Oakland, but not as much. You know what I mean? They were mostly in the West back then. And then in the 60s, I heard in the 60s, they used to call the Pachucos Hondos. That's what I've been told by a lot of OGs. You know what I mean? Oakland Chicano. Sac City Boys. Soccer on the house. Someone said, I love learning about Oakland's Chicano history. Thanks, bro. But it has a lot of Chicano history, man. But like, I don't know if you've been on here for a while. One love to my people out in Sacramento. Actually, I have hella family in Sacramento. But I know Sacramento, Franklin, Central, you know what I mean, Northside, Gardens. I know all that shit. I've been out there hella times. But yeah, you know what I mean? A lot of people just don't know that history of Chicanos in Oakland. Former co-workers told me about old Oakland history. Oh, that's tight. That's tight. Yeah, man. That old neighborhood in East Oakland, I've been following it for years, bro. Orale. Gracias, bro. Yeah, I used to live in Sacramento. I used to stay over there by I have another guy on here. His name is City of Trees. That's the name of his account. He's from Sacramento. He follows my stuff too. But I lived in Sacramento for 3 years. I used to live over there by Power Inn and Fruit Ridge Road. I don't know if you know where that's at. That's like South Sac. I remember they used to have some gang called the Daimones or something like that. But yeah, man. Yeah, that's a trip that they don't talk about that. And even Sacramento's Latino history, you don't hear about it. You know what I mean? I got a homie who's from Central, you know what I mean? Over there from, he's from over there by Emiliano Zapata Park in downtown Sacramento. And he told me that was the original Mexican neighborhood of Sacramento. I guess they call that neighborhood Alkali Flats or something like that. And supposedly that was the original Mexican neighborhood of Sacramento. Kind of how West Oakland used to be the original Mexican neighborhood of Oakland. You know, but yeah, you know, Oakland, and let's be fair, it's now gentrified. Someone said Central was the first ever Rasta hood. Yeah. There was another neighborhood too called the West End, which is where West Sacramento is now. There used to be a lot of Rasta there, a lot of Japanese, and a lot of blacks over there in that neighborhood way back in the days. And then they destroyed most of that neighborhood, and then all that's left now is and that worked at Mexicali Road related and talked about how there were a few business. Yeah, in the 80s and 90s, there were still a lot of Mexican businesses around 7th Street. There was La Borinqueña, Mexicali Road, Mi Rancho. There used to be La Michoacana. There used to be another place around the corner owned by a guy named Don Luisito. It was a pharmacy, a Mexican pharmacy. So yeah, there used to be La Borinqueña was there too. You know what I mean? So there used to be hella Mexican businesses there still. Oh, Broderick, that's but West Sacramento's not Sacramento County though, right? Ain't that Yolo County? But yeah, I know where Broderick is, but yeah, my friend told me about Central, how that was the original Mexican neighborhood, but the West End is even older than Central. The West End was where old Sacramento is now, and they destroyed that neighborhood completely. The same way they did. What's a trip is the West End of Sacramento, and look it up if you don't believe me. Look up West End of Sacramento. There's a few stories on YouTube about it. West End was a neighborhood where a lot of Mexicans and blacks and Asians and poor white people lived. And that neighborhood was completely destroyed to build the freeway, the 5 freeway, and to build all those buildings that are around, like the downtown plaza and all that stuff. And they destroyed that whole neighborhood. You know what I mean? That's no different than what happened to West Oakland. West Oakland was the same way as that neighborhood, and they just completely gutted it and destroyed it to build the freeways and the BART and all that stuff. But yeah, man, Oakland has a deep history, man, and it's just sad that like the Chicano history of Oakland is never talked about, and it's so deep and so rich, man. It's crazy. Should do a bottle tour of old Oakland Latino culture. I did. Go back, Art Best. Go back like, go back this year, and you'll see I did 2 barrio tours of the old West Oakland neighborhood. It's on here, bro. It's go on my videos and go back a couple months, and you'll see it. A few months. There, I did do a barrio tours of West Oakland on 7th Street. You know what I mean? There's nothing there now, though, man. God, it's so sad the way it looks. When Mexicali Roads closed and La Borinqueña closed, it just looks abandoned, bro. It looks sad. Like Mexicali Roads, I was by there the other day, and it's just all tagged up, bro. It's like, ah, man, hella JCACs everywhere. You know what I mean? It's sad, man. You know, La Borinqueña, they should have kept it going. I knew the owner, the daughter of the owner. Her name is Tina. They call her Tina Kamali. I don't know why she didn't keep that restaurant going. But yeah, man. Mexicali Rose, I remember that spot. You know what I mean? I remember the old places in East Oakland too, like Arts on Fruitvale, where Guadalajara's is, La Mexicana, which is still there. Well, Calles has been there forever. El Jalisco's over there on like East 14th by like 16th, kind of by San Antonio Park. They sell carnitas there. That place is hella good. Best carnitas in Oakland. I love Oakland. Check your head out there a few times. Chopped it up with some OG homies from Oakland. Car show. Learned a lot from them. I love Oakland Chicano culture. I head out there a few times chopping up with some OGs from the Oakland car show. Learned a lot of. Thanks, bro. Yeah, like I said, Oakland Chicano culture and history is deep, deeper than most people think. You know, Oakland gets known as being a. You know, Oakland has a reputation of being a black city and having a lot of black culture. And you know, to be fair, you know, Oakland's black population was the dominant population for about 20 years. You know what I mean? So you know, a lot of black artists came out of Oakland. Too Short came out of Oakland. MC Hammer and so many others. You know, and actors too. So yeah, black culture has been a huge part of Oakland's history. And I won't take nothing away from that. The Black Panthers, like I was saying, a lot of black culture has come out of Oakland, but and you know, I don't take nothing away from that. You know what I mean? And I don't see that as nothing bad. It is what it is. You know what I mean? And Junebug Slim from Oakland, he made music with. Yeah, I talked about Junebug Slim before, man. I'll get to that right now, but yeah, he's from the town. But you know, black culture has been dominant in Oakland, but that doesn't mean that Chicano history should be ignored, nor should it be not told because black culture has predominated in Oakland. That you know that's not fair. That's not cool either. Because Chicanos have been dominant in Oakland for a long time, and we've been here just as long as blacks or anybody else. We've been here actually before any of those people. You know what I mean? Before even the Europeans. So you know, how is it that our story is not told, you know, in a major California city? You feel me? That's why I'm changing that. That's why I think people in Sacramento also, the capital of California, the Chicanos out there should be really telling their story out there. You know what I mean? There should be a Sacramento Latinos United out there telling the story of Sacra. I would love to hear that. You know what I mean? But It's up to us, man, to tell our stories because we can't wait for historians that are white or black or anybody else because they're not going to tell our story. You know, we got to tell our own story, which is the reason why Oakland Latinos United exists. You know what I mean? Got to go. Thanks for the history. Keep it up. New Year's, new beginning. I'll be looking out for your new episodes. Thanks, man. But yeah, let's get to Junebug Slim. Junebug Slim is a trip, man. He's from East Oakland. He's from 71st Ave, from the deep over there by 73rd. You know what I mean? Over there by Tobin's Liquor Store. Those of you who know East Oakland, by the KFC over there on by 73rd. There's a Popeyes. There used to be a Pioneer Chicken over there. That's his hood. And then that fool went to Sacramento and was trying to claim Sac. I was like, what the hell? That fool from the town. I actually met him because they used to have Greenside Records. It used to be right there by Fruitvale and East 14th or International by Wendy's. And they used to sell records and stuff and promote their stuff. So Junebug Slim used to be part of Greenside Records. And I met him and MC Man. If you remember MC Man, he was another old school Chicano rapper from Oakland, from Fruitvale. And I remember I met Junebug Slim and he was all town business. Like, yeah, I'm from the town, I'm from the deep, I'm from 71st. Check out my new album. I remember I So yeah, you know what I mean? I met him. He was like, I'm from the town. He was all town business. And then next thing you know, I bought another one of his albums and he's talking about Sacramento, that he's from South Sac. I'm like, what? I'm like, wow, this dude's hood hopping. You feel me? Like, how you gonna be from the town one day and then be from Sac the next day? Now, if he would have been like, I'm giving love to Sac, that's one thing, bro. But if you from the town, you from the town. He went to Fremont High School. You know what I mean? Because he even says it in the song. But yeah, he made a pretty dope song about Oakland, though. You could look it up. It's called Planet Oakland. Look up Junebug Slim, Planet Oakland. He gives it up to my hood. He says Fruitvale and Jingletown. He mentions that's where I'm from. You know what I mean? I'm not from Jingletown per se, but I grew up in Jingletown. Basically, I'm from East 7th Street, but you know what I mean. But Jingletown and East 7th Street are right there. They might as well be the same hood, but you know how fools are. But yeah, he started hood hopping, saying he's from Sacramento all of a sudden. Like, nigga, you from the town. How you gonna be from Sac? You know what I mean? Even me, when I lived in Sacramento, it was always town business. You know what I mean? I wasn't disrespecting no one from Sac, but when fools from Sac used to ask me out there, where you from? I'm from the town. I'm from East Oakland, East 7th Street. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's just how it was. But yeah, Junebug Slim, that's hella funny. But yeah, I remember him, man. Do you still live in the town, homie? I live near the town. Let's just say that. I can't disclose where I'm at, but I live near the town. I'm not in the town at this moment, but I'm still in the East Bay. I'm in Oakland almost every day though. I was just in I was just in Oakland last night. I was in East Oakland and downtown Oakland at Molcajete. That's a restaurant that's in downtown Oakland on Webster. Those are my homies. We were eating like they were making a fat ass grill, so I was eating some carne asada, some chorizo. Yeah, it was dope. But yeah, but I'm in the town all the time, man. But I'm still in the East Bay. You know, I'm not that far from Oakland. I'm only like a 5 minute drive. So yeah. But yeah, man. But I lived all over the Bay Area, man. I lived in Richmond. I lived in Vallejo. I lived in Sacramento for a little bit. So I lived all over. V Town. What's one love to all my V Town homies from Barrio Central, Vallejo. You know what I mean? Way back in the days, used to kick it out there. You know, you know all them neighborhoods in Vallejo, the Crest Side, the South Side, Hillside. You know what I mean? Sac lacks culture compared to the Bay. I mean, it's up to people out there to create culture, man. You feel me? But I can see what you mean. I mean, like Midtown's kind of cool. There's a little bit of culture down there, but yeah, man. Like I've been down Franklin Street, and there is a lot of Mexican businesses there, but it could be touched up, man. You know what I mean? The same way Fruitvale or Mission District is touched up, or 23rd Street in Richmond. You know what I mean? But or East Side San Jose. But I mean, the thing that's a trick is there's hella barrios in the Bay Area that people don't realize. Like Concord, there's Monument Street. Uh, Richmond, there's 23rd. Vallejo, there's Broadway, which is where all the Mexican businesses are at. In Berkeley, there's West Side Berkeley, which is a small little ass barrio, but it's a barrio. San Leandro, you got that one hood over there where all the Mexican businesses are on East 14th, over there like by 160th or something like that. Hayward, you got A Street, you got South Hayward, Tennyson. Yeah, San Leandro, East 14. There's hella Mexican businesses over there, especially when you're up there, kind of by what is that? 100 and what street is that? Like 160th, I think. Barrio Franklin, Barrio North, pretty on Rasa, just not the same since the blacks moved in, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of blacks in Franklin, is there? I know Del Paso Heights was always a black neighborhood. I know when I lived in Sacramento in the '90s, it was already a black neighborhood. Oak Park was a black neighborhood too. Uh, the Gardens and like Meadowview was where a lot of blacks were at. Elder Creek too, like Creek Mob. I remember there used to be a lot of blacks around there. But I mean, I grew up around hella blacks. I grew up in East Oakland, so I never tripped off of it. But out here in Oakland, what changed the game was when all the white people moved in here when the gentrification started happening. That changed Oakland a lot, man. Because now like neighborhoods that used to be all black or all raza are starting to become hella white. Hella whitewashed. But that happened a lot out here in Oakland and in San Francisco too, like the Mission District. That happened a lot in the Mission. In Redwood City, you got Little Mexico. Dakota and Union City, and yeah, there's a lot of hoods. East Side San Jose, and a lot of other ones. I said Tennyson and South Hayward, but yeah, man. I know Sac Town. To me, the town that's hella grimy though, compared to Sac, is that has no culture is Stockton, man. I hate to say it. No offense to people from Stockton, but Stockton's a fucking dump. Tree hugging vegans, yeah, a lot of those. But tree hugging hippies that have always been around, like but they used to be more in Berkeley and San Francisco, but now they all over Oakland. Now Berkeley's more yuppie than anything, you know. But so is San Francisco. But yeah, I remember all that stuff. But Stockton, Stockton's grimy as hell. There's not a lot of culture in Stockton. You feel me? Stockton's just kind of grimy. There's a lot of homeless people out there. I mean, there's a lot of homeless in Sacramento. I mean, in uh, a lot of homeless in Oakland too. But Stockton is grimy as hell, man. Hella grimy. But yeah, I remember there is a like a Latino area of North Sacramento. I think it's over there by Northgate, right? They call it they call it what, Garden Land or something like that. I remember hearing about that. East Side Stockton. Yeah, it got over there by Charter Way. But I've been to Stockton hella times. I've been to Tracy. I've been to Modesto. I've been out that way. I've been to Merced. I've been as far as. Now I've been to the Central Valley. I've been to Fresno for the first time ever in my life. I was there today. I went there not today. I went there back in March before the shutdown happened. I was out in Fresno. I did a performance out there. That was my first time ever going to Fresno. They Gardner two different hoods. Okay, I don't know, bro. I'm not from Sac, but yeah, Northgate Garden. I know where that's at though, bro. I just went to some store called El Dorado when I was a kid. Oh yeah, I know where that's at, El Dorado Market. I also remember going to like a cholo store called Mariani's. It's like off of El Dorado. Yeah, bro. But I've been to Del Paso Heights, DPH hella times. I've been to that area too called Arden Arcade, which is over there kind of by Arden and Howe Ave, I think. I've been over there hella times. Yeah, man. But yeah, that's how it goes, man. So, Art, where are you from? Are you from Oakland or are you from like San Leandro? And Sac City boy, have you ever been to Oakland? Have you ever been to Fruitvale, to my hood? You ever been around there? You ever walked around the barrio in East Oakland? Hella taco trucks, hella Mexican restaurants. Our kids where the Southerns are usually at Howe Park. I know where Howe Park is. I used to have a cousin that used to live around there. What Sac City boy, you ever came out here to the town? You ever been like to Fruitvale? To the car shows? I remember the car show at the Coliseum back in the days when they used to have the big one in the 90s at the Coliseum. But yeah, but have you ever been to the hoods in Oakland, like to the Mexican hoods, like Fruitvale area and stuff like that? The Murder Doves and the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. You know what I mean? Hella good taco trucks out here. Good Mexican restaurants. Fruitvale cruises, bro. Okay. Okay, did you go to the cruises that one homeboy does? I think he's called Cali Cruises. I know that dude. I think he's from the Deep East. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's crazy because back in the days, I remember you couldn't go. If you were from Fruitvale, you couldn't go out to the Deep East because that's where the Border Brothers used to be. So it used to be like crazy back in the days, like fools funking all the time between the BBs and the Norteños. It was wild. The 9400 boys. But yeah, that was back in the days, though. That was back in the days. But yeah, there's a dude named Kelly Cruises. He be making cruises out here in Oakland, down Fruitvale and down International. He goes all the way to Lake Merritt too. But yeah, I remember cruises back in the days too when they used to cruise on E14. Yeah, bro, I never took the time to head out there and roam around Fruitvale. I want to. You should, bro. Come like on a nice summer day, walk around Fruitvale, check out the taquerias, the taco trucks, bro. It's cool. You'll like it, bro. It has a very, very Latino feeling. It's like a little Tijuana kind of. You feel me? Kind of like Franklin, but probably more barrio than that. You feel me? But yeah, it's cool. You know what I mean? People selling corn on the streets, selling frutas. I remember when I was younger, you used to see a lot more people selling stuff on the streets on Fruitvale. You know? But yeah, man. That one homie, like I said, named Kelly Cruises, he was doing them cruises last summer around Oakland. I don't know if that's the dude you've been to. Love that feeling, bro. Yeah, me too. Redwood City's, you know what? It's a trip because Redwood City's barrio is like that. Middlefield Road, Little Mexico, it's just like that. I roamed around there because my brother used to live out there. I made a barrio tours there not that long ago. And it's the same way. It's like a little barrio. It's just hella, you walk around, it's like you're in Little Tijuana kind of, in Redwood City. East side San Jose is kind of like that too. The evil side of San Jose is kind of like that. The Mission District some parts of the Mission District are still like that too. Even though that's starting to be less and less, but there are some areas of the Mission that still feel hella barrio though, which is cool. You feel me? But yeah, man. Richmond's like that too. If you go down 23rd Street, it's hella barrio right there. Like I get a barrio tours on 23rd Street. There's hella Mexican businesses and taco trucks, and it's cool. It's cool over there. You know, but yeah, man. That's I love that feeling too, man. That's why every time I'm in a different Bay Area city, I always got to show the Mexican neighborhood or the barrio. The last barrio tour I did was in the canal area of San Rafael in Marin County. Oh, and I showed Marin City, even though that's more of a black hood, but that's where Tupac's from. Oh, love the San Jose. Yeah, I've been there to Hammer and Lewis. I've been there hella times. I bought a sick ass jacket there back in the summertime. I've been wearing it a lot. I also bought an old school derby at the derby shop on Haight Street in San Francisco about like 2 years ago. I still have that derby. You know, I wear Pendletons too, bro. They're hell expensive, but I got a couple of old school Pendletons too. I like that OG look, bro. Like, Oakland is known for like the hyphy, sideshow culture. But when I was growing up, because I'm 43, when I was growing up and my brothers were growing up, they're in their 50s. Oakland was the Chicanos in Oakland were more cholo style back then. You know what I mean? It wasn't so much of the the way they act now. Back then it was more cholo style, like khakis and 501s and white t-shirts and Nike Cortez and stuff like that. You know what I mean? That was in derby jackets. That was more the style. Like if you see the movie The Principal that was filmed in Oakland back in the days, and you see the documentary Children of Violence. I don't know if you ever seen any of those, Sac City Boy. You'll see how Chicanos in Oakland used to dress back in the days. They were like hella cholo style. San Francisco was like that too. Yeah, but all that gold grill and all that stuff that came around more in the 2000s, bro. That wasn't in the 90s. It wasn't like that at all, bro. Yeah, the Untouchables. But back in the when the documentary was made, they weren't called Untouchables yet. They were called just Barrio 60s or the 60s. You know what I mean? They didn't become the Untouchables until the second generation, which was the generation after them. That was more like the late 80s, early 90s is when they became UNT or the Untouchables. But yeah, I remember them. I remember this dude, they used to call him Fredo. I remember he got killed. He got killed in by the Border Brothers. I think he was from the Untouchables. I remember that. That was in like 2000. I heard the new generation 30s are beefing with the 60s. I'm not sure, bro. I'm old, bro. I don't really keep my eye on the streets like that. But I do know that a youngster was killed in the 60s, like a couple months back, in a drive-by shooting. Growing up, I always heard of KMT. Yeah, I remember KMT. That was a tagging crew, I think. There was KNT and UNC under no control and Psychotic Kings. Someone says, yes, dirty beef with the 60s. Yeah, I have no idea. When I was young, there was no beef like that. I know I've been seeing graffiti of a new gang called 51st Ave Locals. You know what I mean? That must be a new clique, though. I don't really know who they are. I know the OGs, bro. Like, I know, like, OGE 7th Street and 36 Locals, 38 Locals, Fruitvale Gangsters. That's who I remember, the old school. You know what I mean? I met a couple of fools from Quince and a couple of dudes from UNT, and I met OGs from Jingletown too, but yeah, I don't know too much about the new generation, to be honest with you. I just know the old generation. So I'm not too familiar. I know when I was growing up, Norteños in Oakland weren't really fighting, beefing like that. You know what I mean? Everybody was cool with each other. You know what I mean? The only hood that I remember sometimes people were kind of distant from was like Quince, UNT too, because they were more out there. But yeah, man, I don't know too much about it now. Yeah, KMT, I remember them, bro. They were a tagging crew. There was a lot of tagging crews in Oakland when I was growing up. Like I said, there was KMT, there was UNC, there was Psychotic Kings too. There was, I think there was one called TMK too, or something like that. TMK or something. You know what I mean? I remember that. There was a lot of tagging crews in Oakland. A lot of gangbangers in Oakland, tagging crews, a lot of black drug dealers, Mexican drug dealers too. It was wild, bro, back in the days. It's crazy though, man. I've been around that gang stuff all my life in Oakland, man. Because my brothers were gang banging. I remember in the '80s when I was real little, hearing about like Oakland, Barrio Oakland Locals, VOL. There used to be 41st Cycles, 36 Locals, 38 Locals. I remember hearing about Wino Park. That was an old barrio in Funktown back in the days. I remember hearing about 46 Locals. And the old school '96 Locals back in the days, the Fruitvale Gangster. Yeah, '96, the original '96 Locals were Norteños from what my brothers told me. And then the Border Brothers took over that area when the 9400 boys started, the BBs. And they had Sureños in Oakland too. They had Southerners too, the SSLs, but they came a little later though. Like when I was growing up, I don't ever remember hearing about Sureños in Oakland, bro. I didn't hear about them till I want to say 99, 2000 is when I started hearing about them in Oakland. The old SSL, they used to be like around 57th Ave, around that area. You know what I mean? But that was the only Sureño gang that I could remember hearing about in Oakland. SSL isn't really that deep, bro. I mean, I don't know. I never knew too much about them, bro. I remember seeing them a couple times over there, like around 57th, 56th, 53rd, around that area. Back in the days, but this was way back. This was like 2003, 2001, you know what I mean? Way back in the days, but yeah, growing up, it was either the old barrios like Quince and 36, 38, Fruitvale, E7, Jingletown, or it was the Border Brothers, you know. I think Jingletown were Border Brothers at one point, from what I remember. But, yeah, man. There was a big time drug dealer out of Jingletown when I was growing up. Fat Tone, you know what I mean? Most of your homies in the 30s are deported. What? Yeah, but when I was growing up, there was a big drug dealer in Jingletown that my brothers knew. His name was Fat Tone. I've talked about him in other videos. And then I remember I used to hear a lot about Mexican Mike. Have any of you guys ever heard of him? Mexican Mike, he was from the deep. He was from like from up there, like 96, that area. But he was a big time baller in Oakland. He was a norteño though. He was in the book Broken Paradigm by Boxer Mendoza. He talks about him in his book. You know what I mean? But I remember hearing about that dude Mexican Mike when he was alive. I used to hear about that dude. But he got killed over there on 98th Ave in Brookfield back in like 2001 or 2002. 2002, I think it was. His name was Mike Perez. But I don't know if you guys ever heard about him or Factone. People always talk about, Felix Mitchell and Lil D, but there was a lot of Chicano and Paisa big time ballers too in the town that people don't talk about. You know, I used to know some of them, so that's how I know they existed. But yeah, man, for sure. I don't know if you guys ever heard of any of these guys, but if you ever heard the book Broken Paradigm by Boxer Mendoza, he talks about that dude Mexican Mike. But it's a trip because I used to hear about that dude when he was alive, and I remember hearing that he used to own a couple of clubs in Oakland or bars in Oakland and in San Leandro too. So I don't know. You know what I mean? That's just what I remember hearing. Yeah, Boxer Mendoza from the Mission. That book he wrote, Broken Paradigm. He talks about that dude Mexican Mike. And Mexican Mike was, I guess, a member. I'm not sure if he was from Nuestra Familia or if he was from Nuestra Raza, but he was a big time drug dealer in Oakland back in the 90s and 2000s, and he was known, bro. A lot of rappers even used to talk about him. That's how known he was in Oakland. And I used to hear about him when I was a youngster. And I remember my brother telling me that he owned a bar in San Leandro or something like that, and he might have even owned a couple bars in Oakland. But he got killed in 2002 in East Oakland over there in Brookfield on 98, kind of by the freeway, by 880. And supposedly, according to the book by Boxer Mendoza, he got killed by some black dudes that wanted to take over his dope spot or his dope business. You know what I mean? But I actually have a newspaper report of when he got killed. But yeah, man, Oakland's always just been a wild place, man. The wild, wild west. you know. But yeah, he's in that book. I don't remember what chapter he's in. But Sac City Boy, if you watch my video, the history of gangs in Oakland, or the last one I made another one called The History of Pimping Culture in Oakland. I talk about Mexican Mike and Fat Tone in both of those videos. You know, I knew Fat Tone though. You know, I knew him. My brothers knew him, bro. I was little when he was alive, but I remember him, bro. I remember Fat Tone from the hood. He was another dude from Jingletown. You know, big time baller, bro. My brothers all used to kick it with that dude. So it's yeah, man. It's not just Felix Mitchell and them. There was a lot of Rasa ballers in the town too. I mean, it's nothing to be proud of, but that's just Oakland barrio ghetto street history. You know what I mean? That people don't know about. But yeah, man, that's just the way it was. That's the way it is. But yeah, man. What time is it? Oh shoot, I've been on here for a long time. So I think I'm gonna get off, man. So it was nice talking to y'all. Hopefully this live feed was interesting or you had fun. I like doing these live feeds. I'm gonna keep on doing them every weekend. You know what I mean? I want to boost up the numbers, and yeah, be sure to check out my videos, comment, subscribe. You know what I mean? Everyone gets their judgment. Yep, they do. And just comment, subscribe. Like my videos, leave comments, and subscribe. Stay away from the gang stuff. Stay away from the drug dealing stuff, because that stuff is not going to lead you anywhere good. Trust me. I know plenty of homies in the town who are dead and gone. Living that vida loca, living that crazy lifestyle. You feel me? So, it's a curse too. Yep, it's a curse. But I'm going to let y'all go. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying this. Like I said, keep on watching. Like my Instagram if you're on Instagram, Oakland Latinos United. Like my Facebook, Oakland Latinos United. And love. Oh, hey, Art, where are you from? Are you from the town? Love, Oakland. Peace. But, yeah, man. The Mexican mind is a curse? Not really. What's a curse is colonialism, bro. The curse of colonialism that came from the Spaniards and from the Europeans who colonialized the Aztecs and the Mayas and all the other tribes and made us believe we were inferior. That's the curse. You know what I mean? But I'ma always keep it town business. Jose from East Oakland, from the Bay Area. One love to the homie for SAC. One love to all the other homies from the town and from wherever you might be. From Oakland, born and raised. That's all good. But where are you from in the town? Are you from Fruitvale, from the east? But yeah, man. Like I said, I grew up in a little hood called East 7th Street. That's where I'm originally from. But I lived around 35th Ave. I lived in the deep one at one point on 82nd Ave. Oh, lived in San Lorenzo. What I live? I lived in I lived over by Highland Hospital when I was real little. I was born in Highland Hospital, and yeah, I've been all over. So, peace out. Like I said, like my Instagram page, like my Facebook. Comment on my videos. Go back and watch all my videos. Leave a comment on the ones that you like, and I'll keep it moving. Late.